Yes.
What?
Okay, people, today let's take a quick look at the Frazetta Girls Icon Collectibles Vampirella. What can I say? I've been into Frazetta lately. There's all these Conans and the Fire and Ice stuff. It's just too good. So I thought, well, I've got one Vampirella, but it's small and kind of corpse-like. We'll get to that in the comparisons. So why wouldn't I get a more traditional action figure to fit in better with the rest of my shelf? Looking at the package, oh, that artwork. Up top, there's the logos, 1/12 scale action figure. In the middle, there's Vampirella. We need an action figure of this now. Little reptilian companion to go with her. On the side, another amazing promotional image. On the back, the logos again, a little bit of sketch work, the figure and all the accessories, along with a list of all that, and then credits. Vampirella. On the top, the logos again. On bottom, legalese, more logos, barcode. On the front, there is a flap that opens up to give you another promotional image, and then the figure itself through the window. Back there in the dark, and I figure there's more under the tray. So let's get this open and see what's going on here. I was right. There was another tray under there with quite a bit of landscape than the figure itself. Oops, seems I had jostled it around too much and knocked that tombstone out of its place. Oh, and this is essentially what I was looking for. It's a very nicely done Vampirella in plastic form from head to toe. Now, if you have the Frazetta Girls Icon Collectibles Fire and Ice Tigra, you kind of know what to expect with Vampirella. I kind of think it shares parts in a couple of places, like the upper legs that are attached to the back sides, and then I think maybe the arms, maybe? Besides those very, very similar parts, they're different. What I mean by I mean the engineering and the overall Frazetta spirit. Because I was about to say, Vampirella is quite a bit taller, but most of that is in the lower leg, down at the boot. I do believe this bracelet is a separate piece, maybe glued down. Oh no, okay, yeah, it is a separate piece. All right, the purple is in the way. Yeah, the upper arm is very, very similar too, but it is definitely a new upper and lower torso, and then, like I mentioned, below the knees, and of course the heads. But the things that make the possible shared parts even more different is the skin tone. Tigra has a bit more color and gradient going on. There's some pink to the shading. Vampirella is a little paler, which makes, vampire, so her skin tone's not quite as lifelike. She still has that pinkish tone to highlight some of the sculpting, but it's not as apparent because it blends into the base color a bit more. What I'm saying is it looks like two characters designed by Frazetta. But then Vampirella's design definitely stands on its own. It's iconic. There's no mistaking who this is. She's got that white collar running down to the gold amulet in the middle, and then the red bikini type costume, along with some more gold accent, a little bat down here, and then the armband around the upper arm, and the bracelet. That red color also pops in with the fingernails. Bare legs running down to some high boots, and again, this is what changes her height. Her overall stature is because of the high heels. Very little sculpt work to it. There's this V cutting down on the front, and then some wrinkles, but ooh, it's the satin black that does all the heavy lifting. But it doesn't stand out too much because it ties to her jet black hair. Just long and straight and nicely sculpted coming down over the shoulders, with the bangs cut, revealing the face. And for being traditional paintwork at the factory, this is super, super nice. Crisp lines for the eyebrows and the eyelashes and the iris and the pupil. Everything is very well defined. Brings that red back in to tie into the costume, but I really, really like the hint of purple for the eyeshadow. And now that I'm zoomed this close, her eyes work really well with that color. Got some gold hook-like earrings, and this side seems to hang natural. This one keeps popping out to I think it was just the way it was packed. I think she was like this with her hair jammed sideways. So I may have to heat that up, see if that'll drop down. I mean, when I push it, it seems to want to stay there, but oh, look, the armband is an overlay. You can take that off if you want to. But why would you? That's so nice looking up there. Overall, just those Frazetta proportions. It works. It looks like the painting come to life in plastic form. For articulation, there is a dumbbell joint at the top of the neck, but because of the hair hanging down, not going to get much up. In fact, that's neutral position. Nice down though. Awesome tilt to the left, to the right. Should have added that the collar also doesn't help in the movement department because it sticks up, the hair comes down. Pin coming out to the shoulder rotates all the way around, and then there is a hinge that goes up to about right there. That also houses the upper arm rotation. You can rotate back, forward. Hinge and swivel at the elbow comes up to about 90 and then swivels in and out. Rotation at the wrist with a hinge in and out. Dumbbell joint mid-torso, plenty of hula hoop action along with rotation. Ball coming out to the hip, comes up, goes back, goes out. Slight rotation inside that assembly. Hinge and swivel at the knee comes up to almost 90 and then shimmies in and out. Just realizing the upper boot is also an overlay. That makes it flexible down here to allow the hinge at the ankle to go a little further back, and then you kind of get it out of the way for forward. But as you can see, it doesn't allow for a forward-facing pin. There's no meat out here. It's got to go straight up and down, so there's rotation there. But even with that hindered movement, you straighten out the legs and get her center of balance. It's not a problem whatsoever to get her standing. Now getting into more action-y type poses may be a problem because getting the foot down. But, well, okay, there you go. It's not super dynamic. She's not crouching on a rooftop or anything, but the legs are bent. She can get a little further. I don't know if I'd leave her in that position on the shelf. Well, I don't know. That seems pretty stable. For accessories out of the package, she has 2 relaxed hands. Those pop right out. So you can pop in 2 splayed out hands, 2 grip hands in case you want to steal some weapons from other figures, because I don't think she comes with anything she actually grips. There's this gesturing hand that can also work as a perch. We'll get to that. Or this gesturing hand, which I feel is the same situation. For head type options, the hairpiece does come off because they're swappable heads. And besides this long hair version, there is a shorter hair piece with a little bit more action to it. That flows back more and curls at the end and has some body to it, but it still doesn't help looking up too much. That collar is just too much in the way. That pops off. Can pop on an alternate fang-bearing face, more going after somebody. And this one has the earrings where they should be, so that may look a little bit better. Get the hairpiece on. But I think this one may be my favorite. Blood on the chin, but she's loving it. But I'm having a hard time deciding between the hair pieces. They both work fairly well on the heads. But, no, I think this one's my favorite. I'm not a bangs kind of guy, but this one seems to come down a little further and then it just laying relaxed. That's cool looking. Then there's this, and it took me a minute to realize that this is another armband. Is there an up and down? Does it matter? I'm gonna go this way. I feel like since I chose that direction, it's gonna be backwards or upside down. But now that I have it up at the top, that seems to form to her shoulder right there. So yeah, I think that's the way it should, or that's the way I like it. I don't know if it's right, but meh. I do like that it adds a little more gold to the overall color scheme. Next, we'll get into the base that requires a little bit of assembly. First, look at the textures and the colors. This mounded dirt behind, there's a skull right there, and another one embedded down in the dirt. There's some gravel, there's some rocks, there's some grays, some browns. It just works really, really well. Then we have some gravestones, some headstones, and a great sculpt. Has a texture to it, and then the gray dry brushing on top just brings out a natural feel. And it's pretty obvious where each one goes. They're shaped very specifically. Well, these two are similar, but then they have these cutouts that they can only go one way and in certain holes. There's this smaller double headstone that's attached together. That goes back here for sure. I noticed there's some humps on the pegs, but you go to push and it's more of just a pressure fit. Have a shorter stone with the Frazetta Icon Collectibles logo on it. That's a nice way to get the branding into the overall piece. Like we looked at a minute ago, there's this taller headstone. There is a cutout that is gonna go right there. There's this piece of the base sticking up and it catches on the edge. So you need to angle behind that, work it in, and then go down. There's a headstone with a cross on top for Eleanor Frazetta. That has the cutout in it there. So that goes on top. And I didn't notice the kickback on it. I tried to go like this and it wasn't going. You gotta lean it back slightly. Then it goes down into the hole. Finally, as far as plastic granite goes, there is Frank Frazetta's headstone and there's only one more hole. So get that There is one more hole back here. That is for this small, gnarly tree. And that'll kind of just jut out between the gravestones. I noticed that some of them didn't want to go all the way down, so I finally just got some. Oh, yeah, you got to push super hard to get them down embedded in, because these aren't in either. Okay, yeah. Woo! In fact, kind of rock it back and forth as you go down, and they'll embed. If you don't, they work their way back up and out. I just turned it around to put the tree in again, and I noticed there's a retaining wall sculpted on the back. That's sweet. One more push with a little rocking, and yeah, okay. To enhance it even more, there's a couple of skulls. One fairly human. It just kind of matches in with the other, although that's small. This one's bigger. Maybe this one's for holding or being up on top like that, or up here maybe. But then the other skull is more of a fantasy item. The elongated back, the jutting out cheekbones, the fangs, that just looks sinister. Maybe this one peeks out from back here, so it's not, well, I mean, you're gonna put a female vampire on the base. It's not like you're trying to unfantasy it. And then finally, there are 3 bats. There's one that is meant to hang because you can tell the wing is kind of jutting forward on one side, and there are little loops at the feet. There's one a bit more symmetrical that also has loops on the feet for hanging, so it looks good like this, but if you were to find a way to have it flying, it also. And then there's one in more of a perched position. Again, hooks on the feet, so if you were to do it this way, like about to take flight, that'd look good, but if you want it hanging, again, it could be ready to take flight, but from upside down. I should probably look at some promotional images, but the feet seem to just hook right on where those branches are positioned. It seems to work really well there. Maybe put the other one on the back here. That way the tree looks filled out when you're looking at it from the front. And then you can put the third bat on one of the outstretched finger hands. There's 3 foot pegs on the base. I've got her on 2, and then there's one right there. And then all together, just a nice display piece. If you get rowdy, the bat will flip down on the finger, right? But it's easy enough. Oops. It's easy enough to just get back on there and boom. I don't use a lot of bases, but this may be the exception. Size-wise, Vampirella stands at about 6 5/16 inches, which is consistent with the other Frazetta Icon Collectible figures like Fire and Ice Dark Wolf and Tigra. Here's the Mezco 1/12 Collective Conan, and then the Loose Collector Red Sonja. As far as other Vampirellas go, this is the 1/12 scale TBLeague version. This is the one I was talking about with the corpse-like feel. It's a rubber material over a skeleton. It's cool, but it's a little too lifelike for my taste when it comes to action figures. This will run a little large in a Marvel Legends display. Here's Crystal, the standard Marvel Legends female body, and then Power Princess, who is larger, but go by head sizes, and you can tell that Vampirella is a larger scale. But not quite full on 7-inch. Here's the NECA Dungeons and Dragons figures, and she seems small by comparison, but at the same time, female. Actually, bringing Dark Wolf back in, I think this shows that the Frazetta line is somewhere between 6 and 7-inch. Don't get me wrong, this would work. Warduke could be a huge guy. So if you want to throw fantasy stuff together, do it. So at the end of the day, very, very nice. A Vampirella to display with the rest of my collection. And that's all I was really looking for. I am surprised at how much I like the base. Like I said, I don't really use bases a lot. They take up a lot of room, but this, it adds to the figure herself. It just enhances the overall presence. I have noticed that messing around with the figure, the hairpiece does like to pop up. I want that dang bang hairline right on her eyebrows, and I'll be messing around and go over here and add the skull, and then I'll look back and it's just up, like, hey, what's happening? So I'll push it back down, move her head again. It's because it jams on the back, so if you try to look up at all, it's just gonna. I also noticed on the shoulders, if you rotate too far out, it exposes a pinned joint in there. And as always, I don't really mind pins, but because everything else is pretty clean, it's noticeable. Your eye goes straight to it. I was taking pictures for the thumbnail, and I noticed it was there, so I came back out, took more pictures after I rotated it in. I like the experimentation, and I like how clean it makes the shoulder, putting the rotation inside the cap. But as far as posability, well, on the females, she does have some muscle definition up there, but with the twisting elbow, it kind of doesn't help. I get it on the guys with the big biceps and the muscles. And if you turn out and the muscle's still forward, it looks weird, but not so much on the females, in my experience. But the upcoming Conan does have double knees, so it seems like there's an evolution. They're continuing to try things out to improve, see what works, what doesn't work. In the long run, the figures so far look fantastic, but I feel like there's a next level that they are about to hit. But then again, I don't need Vampirella in crazy poses. I mean, yeah, when I said that, I pictured her like perched on a gravestone, but at the same time, she's standing or chasing or posing. And in that aspect, I'm very happy with this Vampirella. This is the one in my display for the time being until something comes along, because that's how it usually works in this hobby, doesn't it? We'll be happy. They will never improve. Huh? What? So we'll see what happens. If you're interested in this, the link is in the description. Until then, bye.